Thanks, John. And thank you, Bizagi and Gustavo Marcel, for the Global Partner of the Year award. Happy to be here. Do you guys like Guy's presentation in the morning? How many of you liked it? Right? Looks like the coffee was working in the coffee break, right? It's been such a fantastic and engaging start of the day for the entire day today. Some super presentations, all right? Starting with Gustavo talking about how do you ACE, ACE. Guys still remember ACE? Right? What's the E stand for? Gustavo, they weren't listening. All right. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll try and also wake you up. I know it's that time of the day where, especially in Miami weather, you want to go out, but we'll try and get you there quicker and sooner enough. The topic of the day today for me is how do you digitize the core to go ahead and amplify experience? And what we've been focusing on with Bizagi over the last couple of years is not just to use Bizagi's workflow patterns, but to really go ahead and start instrumenting it for the digital process transformations that it's meant to be. Right? So that's the broad idea of utilizing Bizagi. But before I get into that detail, first of all, my name is Himanshu. I run our digital process automation practice, and a little bit about Infosys as an organization. As you can see out there, we are close to an $11 billion company in annual revenues as a system integrator, as a digital transformation company. And we pride ourselves on repeat business. Close to 98% of our business is repeat business. A lot of Fortune 2000 customers, good 1,200 of them are our customers as well. There's a lot of work that we are doing in the last 2 years to grow our local nearshore presence by opening up tech and innovation hubs in Americas. We are hiring specifically around 10,000 local jobs in Americas as well as part of our strategy. But that's about Infosys, just so that everybody knows who Infosys is. What we're going to talk about today is something different. The lady in the picture looks great, right? She's surrounded by, do you guys remember Minority Report? Pictures like that, movies like that? Yeah? A lot of contextual stuff happening, a lot of experiential stuff happening. How many of you guys know that some of the companies like the Sonys and others, they are even patenting a kind of a contact lens with which once you start walking around, the contact lens can go ahead and tell you, I know you like Starbucks, here is 0.5 miles turn right, here is Starbucks, there is a 20% discount on it. Right there with your contact lens. Great stuff. Future stuff. It's going to happen in the next 1 to 3 years. Why is this important though? More and more of the companies that we are working with today, they've spent hundreds and millions of dollars today and going ahead and spending on digital transformations with a focus on the front-end experience. Right? I was with a customer, a very large manufacturing customer last week, and they have spent close to $200 million in the last 5 years on some of these things. Great, absolutely fantastic. But when you really go and look into the details of their back-end operation, you will still find Excel sheets, emails, Lotus Notes. Know that picture? Happens, right? And that's exactly why this point, that digital beauty, just like natural beauty, is more than being skin deep. While you can jazz up the front-end makeup, and it'll take you only so far. And by the way, it is needed, don't get me wrong. It's not that it's not needed. It is needed, but you also need to look beautiful inside out. That inside out story is what we're going to talk about today in terms of how do you take in and digitize your core operations if you want to really amplify your experience. Yeah? So the two things that need to go together as an and picture, right? Sorry. Somehow it went up. Let me see, I can get it back. Yep. The two things that you need to figure out to make this picture happen is an and conversation, experience on one end and operations on the other end. Why do you need to do it? Because every time you pick up a project or a program or a transformation, people tend to focus on only one side. Again, remember, this is an and conversation, not an or conversation. everything that you do on your operations will impact your experience. Just doing experience with the backdated operations is going to impact your experience back again. Yeah? Your ability to go ahead and amplify, and that's a core word here in this conversation, your ability to amplify your experience, your ability to amplify your back-end productivity, your efficiencies, the way you do your business, it's all bundled together. The most important, once you start seeing this and conversation, your ability to amplify your revenue per customer or through new customer increases multifold. Let me take an example. I have my wireless internet, my phone, TV with one service provider, right? A fairly large, massive company. And I've been their customer, pretty loyal one, for last 12 years now, right? All my family services are with them as well. What happens last month, I get a bill. I get a bill every month, unfortunately, but that's the other part of it. And it has a $350 extra charge in it. And I'm like, why would you charge it $350? It's supposedly for an international call. And I just remembered, I've done this mistake before, right? Instead of using my extension, internet extension VoIP, I have directly dialed in. So I'd already called up my company a couple of months back and said, international calls, hold. Go ahead and put a hold on them. I don't want this phone to be placing international calls. And I still get a bill of $350 extra that month. As a loyal customer, what do? First of all, I try to use their chatbot, which they just launched. Fantastic experience. Doesn't take me too far with that conversation because they haven't coded that piece of that international call bill handling on a chatbot yet. Never mind. I'm in a hurry. I go ahead, send them an email. I get an auto acknowledgement. Fantastic. Doesn't solve my problem. I wait for 2 hours, right? These guys know me, right? 12 years. All my family is with them. And I call up. The best way to get things done. And the agent that picks up, he says, sure, thank you, Himanshu, for calling XYZ company. I understand your problem statement, and I'm sorry for being there, but let me put you on a brief hold while I look into it. I said, sure, go ahead. Thankfully, that person comes back after a minute and said, yep, I can see that you have an international hold on your phone. Great, absolutely, that's what I've been saying all along. Right? Why $350? Said, can I put you on a brief hold while I talk to my supervisor and see how can I revert this back? Sure. That brief hold goes on for 35 minutes. Yeah? And if that was not enough, that call gets disconnected. Right? Must be my lucky day. What happens next? I wait for somebody to call me, wouldn't you? Right? It's the same number that I'm calling, which is my wireless service that you guys provide, right? Nobody calls. So out of frustration, waiting for another 20 minutes, I call them back. And I get an agent who says, how may I help you? And I'm like, here we go again. Obviously, the story goes on, and I had to spend another 2 hours to get that sorted out and fixed. But look at it. The same company had spent $80 million that year on their front-end experience and so-called contact center transformation. Look at that experience. They hadn't looked into that experience from an operations perspective of what the agent does or it does not do, right? Get the story? Yeah. Why is that important? Of going ahead and considering that. So what have we done as a company, as Infosys? We have created a framework to help our customers in taking care of their digital journeys in what we call as navigate your next. We do not know always what the next is, and that's why the story. Every customer has a unique proposition, a unique storyline, and hence, how do we help you navigate your next? So we broke down this entire thing into 5 distinct areas. Obviously, it starts with your experience part of the story, right? Being able to provision what we call as channelless experiences, personalized experiences, contextual experiences, using the insights that you have built up by working with that customer, right? A lot of work that has to be done in that area as well. Going ahead and creating and innovating new products and new service lines around that specific area, helping accelerate that digital transformation, right? With platforms such as Bizagi, with a combination of DPA platforms, including the UiPaths, the Bizagis, right? The AI tools, Microsoft Azure on cloud, and so on and so forth. And last but not the least, assuring that it works. Everybody forgets about this assurance piece in digital transformation, right? Remember, if you're transforming and you don't assure, where would it land you to? So that's a framework, and we can get down into details offline in some of these conversations of how are we using each and every area of this entire conversation and ecosystem. So how do we do it to tie it back into the Bizagi landscape? What we did was, we have spent a lot of years working with Bizagi, last 8 years now. We are early adopter. And across the projects that we have been doing with Bizagi and in general, we took some of those learnings and created a reference architecture stack. Right? Now, this reference architecture stack, does it pass for every single digital transformation? Obviously, no. Does it pass for most of the DPA-based digital transformations? The answer is yes. What does this contain? If you look at it, in the specificity, it has the customer journey management right on the top. When you start your Bizagi projects, does anybody map a customer journey, a user journey, or do you guys get into process models? Do you care how a user or customer feels when they walk into a branch, when they call you in a contact center? Maybe not, maybe yes. We do care. It's just that we haven't thought about doing it that way, right? So that's the first step in this entire conversation, getting the tools and the techniques and the methods to be able to start mapping your journeys and then reimagining those journeys one journey at a time, right? Because those journeys cut across channels. Remember that example of my telco company? Chatbot, email, phone, same customer. Same customer you have known for so many years. Where are you guys? Have you thought about my frustration, my pain points? I'm calling you or doing these transactions for an bill out excess, might have called you for anything else, right? But look at that journey entire. Below that journey, to be able to manage that journey is the unified user experiences. Again, we all start doing a lot of bots here and automation there. Chatbots are the flavor of the season. Conversational UI. Everybody's building chatbots, right? However, they are, most of the clients that I speak to, they are embedding the logic of the chatbot within that bot. So what if the channel changes tomorrow? What if there is a brainwave transmitter? I don't even have to speak. You get it. You get me, whatever I want to say. There's no conversation. The conversation is not happening using that machine. It's happening using brainwaves. What then? Would you have the same experience? Or would you have to start coding your application all over again? Right? Again, just examples of how that entire unified user experience across channels need to start working. Now, below that is the AI-led capture engine, because people will still do paper, people will still do emails, people will still do the way they want to do things, right? And you cannot change it. You're getting into a lot of customers with back-end operational use cases where, for example, invoices. You can imagine invoices coming as PDF files. I can live with that. You still have images coming in as JPEGs. You still have images coming in as paper images. What do you do with those, right? Would you say, I'm not going to pay you because it's a paper image or a JPEG instead of a PDF? So that entire capture engine becomes a very important part. The portion below that is the customer DNA. A fantastic and a phenomenal piece underneath it. If you do not know your customer data attributes, their insights, what they like, what they don't like, the context around it, and you've created a system of reference around it, it can only take you so far, right? Obviously, we have built a lot of IP and fundamentals back into it, but that's where all your customer genomes and all the other stuff that goes in right there to build that. There is the Bizagi case management engine, the workflow engine underneath it, which is also needed for improving the efficiency of the processes and actually doing stuff. There is robotics, there is real-time decisioning, there is the insights engine, using which we build up all these customer genomes. And obviously, the last part is the APIs and the microservices that needs to go in. Again, a small pointer on that. People think that they can throw in RDA, robotic desktop automations, a ton of it, 100 bot army, and get done with it. Not all the time. The long-term fix is this API microservices. And it takes money, don't get me wrong. It takes money, time, effort, energy to do it, but that's a long-term fix. Why is it the long-term fix? Because every single organization that stands today will get disrupted tomorrow. The only way to survive that, and you saw that in Guy's presentation, Steve Jobs changing, right, 2007 to 2008, making it open. That openness is not just for the product companies, it's also for the services companies there. You will only survive if you are playing in a greater value to the customer marketplace and an ecosystem. Otherwise, you will have trouble and you will have difficulties because you might not be able to keep up with the innovations. Your marketplace might be, and you might be an important part and cog of the wheel to do that. But if you're not connected through those API microservices, you are in trouble. So again, a big ticket item around that. Obviously, we have put together a lot of pre-integrated capabilities. We have put together a lot of other fundamentals to make this reference architecture work. But that's the architecture that we are evolving, and we are building a lot of even Bizagi solutions right now as we speak. Yep. Now, how does it all help? The way it starts to help out is in the evolution of the digital capabilities. And as you can see, the first item out there is by creating the right system of records and references, the digital infrastructure that needs to be there. Whether you start calling it movement to cloud, whether you start calling it combination of various data sources into system of references, but it's all part of that digital fabric that needs to exist for you to go ahead and take the next leap. The second is the system of execution. End of the day, you still need to improve your processes because the business capabilities of future will be delivered using the business processes that you have in the organization. And that's where Bizagi plays a fantastic role. That entire system of execution. Remember, a lot of people have spoken today about the global orchestrator, the orchestrator engine, right? The engine which wraps around the ERP packages and the other packages and still makes things happen. The engine which connects, we call it, by the way, the art of super glue, right? The glue which binds it together, because otherwise, people are the glue. Do you want people to be the glue? Without the systems working at their full efficiency, people can be the glue, and they do a fantastic job at it. It's just that they're just then trying to hold the fort for you because things are slipping, and the people only know how to make it work. You don't want to be in that situation because you want those people to be only empathizing with customers and servicing them rather than trying to hold the fort because the systems are not good enough to do it. Bizagi does a fantastic job in that specific area. So please use Bizagi more and more along those lines as the art of superglue engine to make things work. Yeah. The third is the system of insights, which we spoke about. Without those insights, so this telco company, did they not know who I am when I called it from the wireless number that they have only given me? Last 12 years of history for my entire family, right? In fact, when I would have called them up, what should they have done? They should have said, thank you, Himanshu, for calling, first of all. I know before you can talk to me about what it is. I also see that there is an extra $350 charge in your this thing. Why do I know it? Because A, it's an anomaly from all the data and the billing. B, you sent an email to me, right? It's the same company. Nobody noticed it. Where are those insights? No system of insights, right? So system of insights. The fourth part is great to have system of insights. What do you do with them? Should they have used that opportunity to monetize? Because otherwise, the same company sends me at least 2 promotions and letters and emails every month. and I don't read them. Here I am with my undivided attention to you guys, and I am calling you myself. Should you not have service, you should have finished that service, but taken the chance to do some monetization, because you knew everything about me. Right? They did not do that, so monetization. The last part is channel-less. I move between the chatbot, email, phone, right? I could have used another mechanism. I could have walked into their store as well, right, in 30 minutes, and they would have been clueless. Where is my channel-less conversations happening at this point of time? The last is a very important concept, which is called as user-generated services products. Everybody has spoken about some of the next-gen companies, right, the Amazons, the Googles, but I want to equate it to, for example, an Uber. You know the unique stuff about Uber and similar companies is that you generate that service of Uber at the time when you want to, at the place where you want to, when you want to, type of Uber, what you want to. Does that service exist before you generate it? Does not. For your context, it does not, right? Being able to go ahead and create yourself into an ecosystem where you can provision these user-generated services and products is the key tomorrow for you to start disrupting with your legacy enterprise knowledge customers that you already have. And this is specifically true for larger customers, right? Larger enterprises. Because while they have the legacy, but they can turn it into their strength, the ability to go ahead and convert it into the user-generated services paradigm is what will make and break them. Yeah. So let's start giving some examples of how did we utilize some of the Bizagi platform using this DPA reference architecture stack, and how does it add up. Here's an example where we have done more than 70 processes for this specific customer. Yeah. The design pattern started off very similar, the art of superglue, wrap around the ERP engine. Yeah. In this example, this is around the supply chain, specifically procure to pay, P2P space, wherein they outsource their manufacturing into contract manufacturing to a lot of factories and vendors outside. So when franchises or stores and factories place their order, it goes ahead. The happy path is a fantastic path for everybody to have, but when you start to ask changes in that order, change a date, split the order, some items early, some items late, cancel it, do some amendments, replace an item. There's so many permutation combination of changes that you can ask for. Everything stops. So when we landed at this customer for this specific example, there was a 50-member team just doing that. Purchase order change management, right? Because it was so much collaboration needed across factories, franchises, staff, right? Reviewers, if it was more than some dollars, X number of reviews, and so on and so forth. And close to 1.5 million emails every year, just trying to get collaboration happen, right? Between all these parties. 12 weeks, got it up and running, and implemented it. The immediate savings was close to 3 million euros within this particular initiative. Most of the other processes that we've implemented after that have been also been in that broad range, 50 to 80,000 euros, give or take, per process implementation. Less than 10 to 12 weeks delivery. Very fast, and as Guy said, what did he say? Don't be? Be crappy, right? Okay, so we were not crappy by putting into production though. However, we were able to go ahead and put it into production at a very fast speed, a very fast pace. And that's the beauty of this entire conversation. The same design pattern we have taken and implemented it across 70-odd processes now, across line of businesses, right? So that's the part of the platform. So what we are doing today in this session as well, and in this first Bizagi Catalyst event, is also launching a set of solutions on Bizagi, very, very specifically. Again, all leveraging our DPA reference architecture, right? We have solutions built out in the order to cash and the procure to pay, where you would see a lot of these combination of things happening. You would see UiPath bots, you would see machine learning, both supervised, unsupervised. You would see OCR, you would see text analytics. You would see Bizagi case management engine. you would see all of these coming together to solve problems. That's more important, right? That is the beauty of some of these conversations. You would see some of these running on cloud, right? And again, most of the building blocks that we have used can be replaced. So if your customer has an OCR engine, or if you have an OCR engine which you want to use and do not like the OCR engine we have put in there, it's a plug and play. That's the beauty of this solution. It's a very extensible. It has been built on a proven reference architecture that we have proven over and over again. So you do not have to go and figure it out as you go along. And it extends the usage of Bizagi that you're trying to do. You can use that to go ahead and start implementing it in places where you might have thought it's too complex earlier at that point of time. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of apps. I would encourage you to come at our booth and see some of those demonstrations as well for yourself. Go ahead and do some touch and feel of those demos. Then start seeing where can you use it. We're also introducing another app for Bizagi called as Fast App. The concept of Fast App is fairly straightforward and simple. The idea is for business to start playing around, especially for the simple workflow conversations, right? Places you will always know there is a requester, there is an approver, there is a reviewer, right? And there is one to more parties, and there is a worker. And something happens in sequence, something happens in parallel, give or take the same integration with either an HR system of record or some other system of record always happens. And you would see that you had to build it over and over again, right? Same design patterns in Bizagi or in other places. So what we did is we pulled it all together, created a kind of a generic workflow and a case management solution where business can sit down with you in less than a day. They can give their requirements. You can put it into a requirement definition tool that we have developed. A bot will kick in, read all of that, call the right Bizagi APIs in the backend, and configure that project for you. Right? Obviously, is it complete? You can put it into production. Yes, right? But obviously, with the right governance, right testing, and you will have to include IT for some integrations because you don't want business to touch those integrations all the time. But for most part, it works for those simple workflows and business. We've tested it with some of the business folks in our customers. They're extremely happy to go ahead and take it on. Yeah. So to summarize, while we learned a lot of stuff, remember, focus on journeys and experience, not just on processes, right? The most important learning for the day-to-day. Second, think channel-less. I always give my telco example. Without that, you would not be designing the right applications, be it for your branches, be it for your contact centers. Think channel-less whenever you're doing it. And by the way, channel-less is just a little bit more than omni-channel, just to clarify. Yeah. Apply automations in service, but please do not forget empathizing with your customers. The second time I called up the telco guy, they resolved my error. They never empathized and said sorry for that call and the hold on and the wait that they had. And that's what pissed me off, right? If they would have empathized, I would have stayed on with that company forever. Yeah? Innovate in sales and marketing. Why do you want to innovate in sales and marketing? Because the more customers you acquire, the more cross-sell, upsell you can do by empathizing. The more cost takeout that you can do from customer service, the more you can spend on your sales and marketing. Yeah? The more innovations you can do. Design your applications so that you're looking for those value moments where the customers are vulnerable and they're talking to you, because that and those are the moments where you will earn and make your money. So people walking into a branch, right, for Old Mutual, doing servicing, but in the process also doing cross-selling, upselling, by tying it back to what they want it to be and what they are trying to be, is trying to figure out those value moments there. Yeah? And again, do not product your user-generated services and products, because that's very important. Last but not the least, please, as guys said in the morning, if this first thing, what's your meaning? Amplify your meaning to the customer. Yeah? So with that, I think I am done with my slide deck. Thankfully, I followed guys' advice beforehand. I had a black background. Did you guys notice? Yeah? I had exactly 10 slides. I have a 30 font. It's actually more than 30, right? And the only thing that's just different is I actually had 30 minutes instead of his 20 minutes out there. Cool? Well, thank you, folks, for listening to me. Appreciate it.